Thanks for checking out our podcast. If you are interested in learning more about writing, go check out our syndication page, seriouswriter.com, where you can find resources, articles, videos, topical classes, and the Brew and Ink podcast. Again, seriouswriter.com. We thank you for listening. All right, and welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Brew and Ink podcast. Welcome, faithful listeners. This is another episode where we are going to review something for you, and it's going to be filled with spoilers.
Spoiler filled.
This
is your warning.
Yes.
Avatar spoilers ahead.
Avatar: The Last Airbender. Let's not get confused. It's not Avatar: The Last Airbender movie.
Nope.
By M. Night Shyamalan, and it's not
Although
Avatar.
we may talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, we may talk about that a little bit, and it's not Avatar: The Blue
mouth,
People.
Potty mouth Pocahontas.
Yeah, potty mouth Pocahontas. Okay, yes. By James Cameron.
Yes.
No, this is the good Avatar. The Last Airbender.
Yeah.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I think this has been my third watch through of all the seasons. I watched them back a little bit when they were on Nickelodeon, but didn't really watch all of it until they came out after it was done, and we were watching on DVD there, and I went through like a couple times then. And then recently, I was watching back through them, and about halfway through after I bought the whole collection, Netflix was like, hey, we're going to put it back on Netflix again. And I was like, oh, thanks. Now that I'm happy with the purchase, because I know as soon as it is taken off Netflix again, I'm going to be right back watching my own episodes, because it's just a good story to go back to from time to time. And I'm sure the people that watched it years ago, like Katie and myself, we have memories with other groups of friends that we watched it with, and we call back to, and we have little inside jokes from certain episodes that we always call back to. And
cabbages.
Yeah, my cabbages. There's the whole Secret Tunnel episode, which we won't get to until season 2. This episode is going to be all about season 1,
Right.
so that we don't overload too much. Or, we can actually get down into some of the character development, nitty gritty, fun stuff from each season, each episode.
Plus, we need content.
Yes, and speaking of content and context, we have 4 people here for you tonight, and you might have heard that we are not split personalities here. It's not just 2 of us or 3 of us. There's 4 of us. There's myself, Steven. There's Britt Mooney,
Brit.
Yeah, and there's Mini Britt, also known as Micah, and then of course we have with us Katie Compton.
Hey there.
And we're going to be all talking about the Avatar.
Yeah. So let me start by just asking Katie, what was it like to? Like, did you start watching it from like episode 1 when you were a kid?
Yeah. Back in high school. I don't know when this came out.
It was like 2005.
Yeah, I think it said 2005.
9th grade. Yeah.
In February 21st, 2005.
Yeah. I was 14.
There you go.
And
You were 9th grade.
Yeah.
And you remember like seeing the first episode? Did it like just blow your mind?
it was pretty cool. Admittedly, it was a fight for the TV with my parents. They didn't understand the momentous occasion, and so we missed a bit, Yeah, seeing the commercials and the build-up, and then finally, we hadn't planned on watching it. It's just there. It's like, oh man, this was so good.
Yeah.
And we were hooked. And I missed episodes here and there, but it was like that was all we could talk about in school the next day. And
was it one of those things where like did it play on Nickelodeon like 5 days a week? Or did it come out like that, or was it like once a week? Once a week. Mm-hmm. So was it one of those things still where like it came out and everyone talked about it the next day, like, oh my god, did you see this?
Yeah, it's
like Mandalorian
or like Lost, because you didn't binge watch things then. So just one episode at a time, and what was what's gonna happen next, and who did this week. And
now, were you into anime already before you watched this? Like, did you have any kind of interest in that?
Peripherally, by that point, I think I had watched my very first anime, Armitage 2, on
It's a random
the
one.
Nick at Night. It was Adult Swim.
Oh, okay.
My
Oh,
parents
okay.
weren't around.
Okay.
Right.
It's like a Mars colonization robot thing.
Okay, got it.
And then I think I had seen parts of Big O at that point.
Oh, Big O, I forgot about that.
Well, I was
Yeah.
about to
Yeah.
say Sailor Moon. I thought
No.
that was one of your.
So we didn't watch. I didn't watch like the popular animes that were out at the time.
Well, they were hard to watch back then.
Yeah.
Because like you had to like rent them or something. Like you.
If it wasn't on Toonami, it wasn't very accessible.
Yeah, it wasn't as like now. There's way more accessible ways to watch a lot of that anime. And I remember going to. It was around the same time. No, it was in the late '90s, mid '90s. I went actually to the theater and saw Akira.
Oh, cool.
Oh,
I still
Akira,
haven't
yeah.
seen that one.
Like I actually went to the theater and
Yeah.
saw it because I was like, okay, everybody says anime is cool. I gotta go check this out. And like, it was just mind blowing because it was, it was one of those classic animes now. But and I think there were shows and comic books and stuff already for
Yeah.
it, and then they just made a big movie. But that's really interesting because I had heard about The Last Airbender and Avatar for years, and then it came on Amazon Prime a few years ago, and we started watching like the first season. We didn't really I don't even know if we finished the first season.
No, I think we went after the battle at the North Pole.
Yeah.
We stopped. And then just now we were like, hey, Avatar's on Netflix. Oh, cool, let's watch it. And then we got to
We kind of
watch
started
it.
over and watched the whole
Yeah.
thing. It's because it had been a couple of years, and I don't even know why we stopped because we all enjoyed it. So we got back into it.
I think we started watching The Cosby Show.
Was that what we did? We got into watching something else, but it was one of those things where all of us, all three of the kids and myself, it's one of those things where we would all sit down and watch it together and talk about it and laugh and like you're saying, like say the lines, and then it got to the point where everybody made fun of Micah in our house because. Anytime we were going to sit down or anytime there was any sort of lull in anything, it was, Dad, can we watch Avatar? So we just kept going back to it, and it was good. We really enjoyed it. So we thought we could do a spoiler-filled review of the first season. We'll try to get through all 3 seasons at some point because Netflix is going to do a live action remake. Now it's the same creators, so the same guys who did it in the beginning are going to be in charge of.
And that dude who worked on The Mandalorian, he also worked on
Avatar.
Yeah, Filoni
and
was
Clone
the director.
Wars and Rebels. He's a really good animation.
Yeah. So Filoni, who I think that's how you say his name,
Filoni.
who did the Mandalorian, helped with the Mandalorian a lot, which we all love.
Yeah.
That this is what got him the Clone Wars job.
Yeah.
Because Lucas saw Avatar and was like, called him up. Was like,
We need this guy.
Which is weird because he was just an animator in that one.
But I guess
he
director
was
too.
the writer.
Oh, he was a writer and director. Okay,
Yeah, he did some writing and a lot of
Yeah.
directing those first couple.
But he called him up to do the Clone Wars animation movie, or no, just a TV show.
The movie and the TV show.
Okay, so
I think
it was
just,
both.
Just kind of head up the whole series.
Gotcha.
Talked about that in the Mandalorian gallery thing.
The
I don't know
gallery,
if
yeah.
you've watched it. It's really interesting.
I've only seen the
But-
first episode where he talked about that.
But yeah, he said 2D animation was really different from 3D animation, but he did a really good job with that.
Yeah.
So let's get into the story. So,
Yeah.
All right.
Who can remember the intro?
Earth. Whatever.
Long ago, the 4 nations lived together in harmony. Then, everything changed when the Fire Nation attacked.
Dun, dun,
Only the
dun.
Avatar, master of all 4 elements, could stop them. But when the world needed him the most, he vanished.
So basically, there are these 4 elements. I'm sure you know about them: earth, air,
Fire.
water, and fire.
Yep.
There's an earth nation. There's the water tribes. There's the air nomads, and then there's the
Fire Nation.
fire nation.
Yes.
yes.
They were in a boat one day. Katara's an airbender. Sokka's just a dude, and then they were They had an argument. They bumped into a big iceberg. They thought it was just a big iceberg, but then it started glowing, which is really unusual.
Yep.
And they found this dude and his humongous bison somehow trapped in this iceberg, frozen for 100 years. I don't know why it's always exactly 100 years, but it was that way. They got frozen Captain America style, and now here they are.
So one of the things I really liked about how it started out as a writer, there's a lot of things I really like about this show, as far as writing goes, is they really took their time with the world building.
Yeah.
Yes.
They so there's the inciting moment where you're getting within the first 10 minutes of the first show, they bump into the Avatar.
Right.
And there's the bison. What's the bison?
Yeah,
The Alpha.
they take time to establish Katara and Sokka's relationship.
Right.
And then they meet the Avatar
Right.
and introduce new characters.
So, but they do it in a way that's not they don't explain everything. They have that intro where there's a little explanation.
Right.
But that's 30 seconds. They don't take a lot of time with all of this extra information that's just unnatural like they do in a lot of shows.
They do a good job of showing you the difference between how some people have the bending ability and some people don't. Katara, she's sitting there trying to practice her water bending, and Sokka's I can't do that. What do you I wish I could do that.
Yeah, they do a really good job showing us the world in the beginning. They show us their relationship. She dumps water on him and he's, you always do this. This is normal life, and they show us the water tribe. They don't have to go into all these details yet because they're going to go explore them.
Yes.
And so they give us enough to show us why aren't there that many men in the water tribe? There's just all these little details that they don't sit there and explain to us. And I think that was, I don't know about in 2005, but I think in a lot of kids shows that's really unusual.
Right.
That they just kind of just start going. And I think that's a really good way to start writing, where you just get into the story and just get into the characters, get into the relationships and get them moving.
Yeah.
And you can build as you go, because they would reveal things as they went,
right?
And I just think that's something that a lot of writers, they think they have to do all this world building in the beginning. It's no, you really don't. If you get them interested in the characters and give them a hint about what's going on, and you show them enough, you can just get going. Yeah. And I really like that.
And after the first 10 minutes, we immediately get introduced to the conflict, the Fire Nation. We get introduced to Zuko and Iroh. We get to know their characters through, again, their first interaction. Zuko's so hyper-focused on capturing the Avatar. Mm-hmm. He explains why in his typical angry boy anime fashion. And then Iroh's there being the wise dude. And it shows their interaction. He also, I think, has an interaction with the people on the boat, his crew.
The other Fire Nation members.
Yeah, and we learn that he isn't very well respected.
Right.
And
because you find out right away that he is the prince of the Fire Lord, very strict type of lifestyle, and he's been essentially banished from his nation. He's lost his honor, and the only way to regain his honor is his father told him he had to capture the Avatar and bring him back alive.
Talk about a strong motivation for setting up your antagonist of the story.
Right.
It's not just, I want power. It's, it's something so intimate. The character is so driven for that. Yeah. But it also leaves room for change. But it's a very grounded motivation for the antagonist to be pursuing Aang and crew.
Right. He's got a redemption more than just a conquering sort of mentality.
And it's not overwhelming.
Yeah.
Again, it's you don't have to show me everything about the Fire Nation right now.
Yeah.
That can happen later. You just have to give me enough to get me in the story.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And we can learn as we go.
Yeah.
And I just think that's something a lot of science fiction and fantasy writers especially have a really hard time doing. Just get into the story and start going. Give me enough that I because they didn't explain they don't explain how water bending works. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these details that you just kind of go, like, I think readers are willing to buy into it if you can give them great characters like Katie was talking about. Now, you give me a good villain.
Yeah.
That's not plastic. And what a great setup with Uncle Ero.
Yeah.
That humanizes the whole situation.
Right.
He's like, I just want some tea.
Right.
Like he totally makes it, gives that dynamic.
And he seems so almost too laid back and a little goofy at the beginning, but they totally bring it back and redeem that at the end of the series in season 3 and all that.
What was cool about the second episode and Iroh's character was that first we see him as this lazy, laid-back guy. He wants to play his board game, but then the next scene, he redirects a bolt of lightning out of the sky. Like, that sort of turnaround makes you kind of realize what kind of character he is.
So they do a good setup because Iroh's is a guy with a past. And they give you snippets of it, like, okay, wait, he's got something that's happened in the past.
Yeah.
Zuko is trying to find his destiny. Like, it's all about him going off to, earn his honor back and all that. And then Aang, as the hero, he's on the journey. Like, he's not this hero that is well acquainted with his powers and he knows what he's doing. He's discovering who he is and what his powers are because he basically went into hiding for 100 years. He's been frozen in this ice block. And it's also kind of a cool story with how the Avatar works. It's very much like the Dalai Lama, where they don't appoint a new one until the previous one dies.
Right. And they usually choose them young.
Yes. Yeah, because the whole belief is they're connected through their life cycles. So when one dies, it then goes to someone that is reborn within that same life force. That's kind of cool where they set that up. There's the guy with the past, the guy that's trying to forge his destiny, and then the other hero that is literally on the hero's journey. You're on the hero's journey with him as he's discovering it.
So a couple things. First of all, this is adult level writing.
Right.
Right? And it's something that I think a lot of children's shows don't realize.
Yeah.
That kids can understand this.
Right.
Kids can, they don't make it adult levels and like sexual or too graphic. I'm saying adult level as far as the relationships, the motivations. Like, they thought
about the emotional weight of a lot of these interactions and choices and situations that they're
even Zuko just wanting the approval of his father. That's something a lot of children can relate to.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just think one of the reasons why it has stuck with people overall, like people really look at The Last Airbender like this, like, amazing, and it really is amazing. And it was so effective for young people because it didn't talk down to them.
Right.
That's my point. It doesn't talk down to people. It's kind of like, this is going to be a really weird analogy, kind of like Mr. Rogers. Like, Mr. Rogers didn't talk down to children.
Right.
Mr. Rogers looked them in the eye and went, you know what, that's really sad, and it's okay to feel sad. Like, he talked to them as if they were people.
Yeah.
And he would try to get, on their level, but at the same time realize that kids deal with very mature emotions. They just don't know how to deal with them. So how do we do that? And I just think that this is
a series that does that very well.
This is a serious writing experience for people, and that's why it's endured. And another thing, in episode 3, they had to deal with somehow a flaw in Aang's character. That he was the Avatar supposed to change the world, and he ran.
Right.
They had to somehow figure out how to make him not stupid and a bad character. Because that could easily have, like, bit them in the butt, right? They could have easily been like, oh, he's supposed to save the world, but guess what? He just runs. He runs away. But they deal with that.
Yeah.
Like, they had to explain that in a way and have that emotion, and have him feel the weight of that decision when he goes back to the air temple and realizes everyone is dead.
Yeah.
And the other two are like, oh, he didn't know.
Right.
Like, I mean, that was an amazing episode that had to happen writing wise, because now now he's got motivation to not quit again. You see what I mean? Like, that's high level writing, guys.
Right.
I mean, that's like amazing.
Right. Like he now sees there is a consequence to it, and he feels almost very lost and alone in this world now because he thinks everyone he knows, pretty much everyone he knows, is gone. And as we go on, he does start discovering connections along the way of people that are still around that he knew maybe from other countries, other nations. And then we even start getting introduced to how his connection to the previous avatars is still there. And that's actually a really big plot point to helping him figure out his power and figure out how he is going to overcome. And pretty much throughout all 3 seasons, the Fire Nation is the big, baddie. Like, it is what he's trying to overcome. All throughout season 1, they're pretty much trying to run from Zuko the whole time. They know that he's chasing them down, and they're trying to get Aang trained up in his water bending and find him people to train his other bending.
Well, the thing, Zuko did just come after them a lot. It was just basically every episode he would come at them, stuff like that. But it wasn't like a rubber-suited monster every week, and they would overcome it, and no character development happened.
Right. Even
in the filler episodes, there was character development. You were looking and you were learning about characters' pasts, and that's
what I think
cool.
is one of the strongest parts of this whole series. Is it's character driven through and through. Even for your bad guys, quote unquote, like was Zuko and his sister, Princess Azula and her friends. Like, you get whole episodes where it's just about them.
Oh, yeah.
And why they are the way they are. Now, that's further in the storyline. But it just proves that they do a great job in developing these characters and giving you the flaws and giving you even what their motives are and sticking true to them.
Well, and not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but here we have in episode 4 and 5.
Yes.
We have introduction of characters that are going to be central to the whole story.
Right.
And they're so strong, you can leave them.
Yes.
That is the mark of great character introduction.
Yeah.
Is that you love them, you think, oh, well, even if they were just there for that one episode, that was really cool. But they're so strong when you bring them back.
Yeah.
That you say, like you really like to see him again.
You get this great swell, like triumphant moment. There's a lot of those in season 3, I feel like.
Oh yeah. They really do a good job. But Suki is in episode 4, right?
There was a really good point where the women were the warriors of that tribe.
Yeah.
And they had all these traditions based on an avatar, like the second avatar before Aang. And that was also really cool.
And then we had the king. What's his name?
King Boomy. Oh, he's
King
awesome.
Boomy. He's an earthbender king.
Also, episode 5 was the introduction of Cabbage Guy.
My cabbages!
Was that the first Cabbage Guy?
Yeah, because
it was
Kingdom.
the first.
Yes.
It was the first introduction of Cabbage.
And he was all the way into season 3, wasn't he?
Yes, so that's the other thing they do well is they have a couple pretty good running gags through the series. And King Boomy is just this crazy guy, which they don't even know if he's on their side or not, because he's just like coming after them.
He had a sort of a trial for them.
Yeah, he had
right.
trials for Aang. And then but basically every one of those trials were designed to show Aang who Boomy really was. He was his friend from 100 years.
Yes.
100 years ago. He's a mad genius.
Right. Yeah, like literally a mad genius. And yes, so he's another character that they bring back later on and give him a really, really good, important role centered around a bunch of people that they bring in callbacks from, like all the masters as they go through. So yeah, that was their first introduction, or I guess in the Kyoshi Warriors, the Warriors of Kyoshi, there's a little bit of earthbending introduction in that one, but this
Five is really
really start learning more about earthbenders. So you've seen waterbenders, you've seen firebenders, now you learn about earthbenders.
Well, episode 4, it also had Aang deal with his popularity. which helped him grow as a character too.
Yes. Right, because it's kind of going to his head and it's creating a rift between him and Katara. Yeah. And they're yeah, and Sokka is embarrassed after being bested by the Kyoshi warrior girls.
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things where if you're going to have a longer novel or series or anything, you have to give almost every character some sort of arc. And you can't, they can be static to a certain degree, but again, Sokka has his arc. He thinks he's a warrior, but he's kind of a buffoon in the beginning. And but the more he goes on, he learns to be humble. He doesn't change completely because he's still goofy.
He
and
learns
funny,
his strengths. He's a tactician.
He learns some of his strengths, and they learn to rely upon him, because at first he was just kind of hanging around trying to protect his sister. And she becomes this, amazing waterbender kind of thing. But yeah, so just all of these characters start to have their own arcs. And again, that's just, even if it's just a little bit, even if you just show a little bit of it, it's an important piece of it. What was it? What was episode 6? I'm trying to remember.
So that's where they're camping outside of a small Earth Kingdom town, and they run into Haru, this guy, and you find out that the Fire Nation is basically occupying his city, and they've outlawed earthbending.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So that's.
Oh, that's right. They saved that guy's life and everything.
Yeah.
So that was a cool episode. I really liked some of the stuff with the spirits and the panda. I gotta admit, it wasn't my favorite.
7 and 8, they really got into the spirit world, which I think is really cool. And then 2, Avatar Roku, because you see Roku's dragon.
Yeah.
And you see.
So you get a little bit more backstory, you get a little bit more into the world building. And the spirit world is a big part of the world building. So, I mean, that had to happen.
And then, Winter Solstice Part 2 was when they go to the temple and Aang tries to talk with Roku. And, yeah, he talks with Roku. And then Roku ends up bringing the whole temple down, because basically the temple guards were
still loyal to the Avatar.
They were supposed to be.
Yeah.
But now they're loyal to the Fire Nation.
Right, that's right. Yeah, but one of them was still.
Yeah, that was a cool episode. I agree.
9 wasn't really.
9 was fun.
9 was fun. Introduced the pirates, which came back later.
And the pirates came back later. And then she's starting to train.
Right, she's starting to train Aang in waterbending, and so she finds this waterbending scroll that these pirates have, and she steals it, which results in them being chased down by these pirates and really having to,
Oh, in this one we get introduced to that lady with the mole fox thing.
Oh, that's
that can
right.
Smell.
Oh, she's so cool.
Oh, she was cool. I forgot the blind creature that could smell everything. Mm-hmm. She was cool, and they bring her back a couple times.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But yeah, she was a really cool character, very creative.
Right, because her creature could basically pick up any scent as long as he caught a little bit. Yeah, he could track it from any distance.
Yeah.
And that is brought back again later on.
Episode 9, and they had some of these elements, because it is a kid's show, and I didn't mind it, but the episode 9 had a little bit of like a Keystone Cops element to it. There was that sort of like the bungling pirates and the bungling Fire Nation, and they're like squeezing through and like, just trying to like do all this. It was more fun and silly.
Yeah.
But what I appreciated about episode 10, you have this character Jet, who introduces some moral questions to the story. He and his crew are arguably on Aang and the gang's side in the fight against the Fire Nation, but their methods aren't right. And so the Aang and company have to figure out how they're dealing with that.
Yeah.
And so not every,
and it doesn't help.
Introducing the idea that not everybody who says they're working with you is actually a friend or an ally or somebody that is good to hang around.
Yeah. It's a very complex idea, right? It's a complex idea that says just because we have the same enemy doesn't mean we should trust you.
Yeah.
Right. And and your goals may not be even any better than our enemy's goals.
Right.
And you may be more
Your
like
methods,
our enemy,
yeah.
because you're just trying to fight the enemy. You're not trying to fight for something right and good.
Yeah.
I agree. We said this before we started recording. To me, episode 10 was one of the most anime of the episodes. Like,
right.
It's just like, it brings in these complications. It brings in these other kind of cool characters.
They have a character with a really tragic backstory for no apparent.
Right. They got the tragic backstory. They got the little love interest with Katara.
Right.
Like, there's all
Which
these kind of elements
complicates
that
the matter.
Yeah.
And then he's the leader of like these lost boys, basically, that live out in the
very
woods.
Lost Boys moment.
Called the Freedom Fighters.
Sure.
But yeah, so it brings in, how are we aligning ourselves as the Avatar and his, basically the trio of them. They're kind of coming into grips like, what is the right way to do things? What are our
ethics and morals
yes.
and standards, and that there are innocents among the Fire Nation too.
Right.
Again, like they're saying, look, they're innocents here too. Like this old guy, just because he's Fire Nation doesn't mean you get to abuse him or whatever. Like those sort of ideas are to me very complex and adult, but very interesting. I think kids can get it. Mm-hmm. They get this.
Okay, so two things happened that I forgot about. One, Zuko duels Zhao, which then we get an insight onto how Fire Nation culture works.
And Zhao is another general.
Yeah, he's
within the Fire Nation.
He is a general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Supposed to be on the same side with Zuko, but you can see how there's even dichotomies and levels within.
It shows us how Zuko is outside of that.
Yeah.
It also introduces the Agni Kai, which is an important part of Fire Nation culture. And then also it introduces his motives, Zuko's motives.
Yeah.
And it turns him kind of
more of a sympathetic character.
Yeah,
Yes.
more of a sympathetic
You
character.
learn why he has this giant burn scar on the side of his face, because of the Agni Kai.
That was important.
It was important.
Now, was it in that episode that they explained it was his father that challenged him and fought him in the Agni Kai? Yeah.
And then two, at the exact halfway point, I loved how they did this. I just saw it just now. The beginning was they explained the bending, they explained the characters a little bit, and then they explained the spirit world. And then episode 10, things got complicated. Mm-hmm. You started to realize, like, one, everything isn't what it seems.
It's not all black and white.
Yeah, it's not all black and white. And two, some of the Fire Nation people are innocent too. Yeah. They get more into that with the festival.
It's humanizing the enemy.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah. So what was 11 was 11 was a great, it was kind of a filler episode, but again a very good one.
Yeah.
In the sense that there were these two groups who supposedly hate each other, but they both need to get across this chasm. I forget why. And there's a guy who's supposed to help him, and there's a creature. So there's all these kind of elements to it. They're very fantasy, very cool.
Yeah.
And it explains a little bit more of earthbending and does a little bit more. But again, it gives Aang another opportunity to show kind of his purpose, that he's supposed to bring people together.
Right. He tries to be diplomatic.
Yeah.
His diplomatic skills are being put to the test.
Yeah.
In this episode.
It also involves a little bit of cynicism, like everyone was the bad guy. The really great bearded people. I'm trying to look at their names, but they're the bad guys just as much as like the burly barbarians are the bad guys.
Yeah. And there was a really cool part about that episode that I actually liked too, which was they had to split up, and Sokka went with one group and Katara went with another, and they had been fighting in the beginning of the, as brothers and sisters, they had been fighting about their different kind of personalities and what they do, and like, she went with the group of people that were just like her, and she's like, exactly, you should hate them, kind of thing, like, and he went with, and it's just kind of
Sokka went with the other one, and
it was just a fun.
But they're all forced to kind of work together because of the giant creatures, those canyon crawlers.
Yeah.
They were like a cross between a spider and a crocodile or something like that.
And we also see what the Avatar is kind of supposed to do, aside from keeping balance between the spirit and the human world, also figuring out differences between the two people groups.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As a mediator.
Yeah. And then continuing on the Avatar note, we get to see why Aang was frozen in the ice, because
That's in episode 12?
yeah, Monk Gyatso basically was this father figure to him and a good friend.
yeah.
And other people thought that because he had recently learned he was the Avatar, they thought that Aang wasn't training a lot. And Monk Gyatso wanted him to experience being a normal child, even though he was the Avatar. But everybody else disagreed.
Right.
So they were
thought he
going to
was
send him
playing too
to
much.
the Northern Air Temple, if I'm correct. And then
Yes.
to get him ready to go do waterbending, but also to separate him and Monk Gyatso. So Aang ran away because he was upset about losing his friend Gyatso.
Basically his father figure.
Yeah, basically his father figure.
Yeah.
And that was a really heavy episode.
Yeah.
Because as it's being revealed to us, this past stuff, he's being revealed in the present that all these people have passed away. So he's like seeing these places with memory.
No, he saw Monk Gyatso dead, so it kind of brings it
brings
full
it back.
circle back to earlier.
But again, it helps us sympathize with him for running away instead of he was just being a jerk and selfish, right? Which you could easily see that. 13.
Oh, so this is in episode 12 is one of the first times that Aang is forced to enter into the Avatar state.
To save
Sokka from the storm. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 13 is one of the best. That's one of those turning point episodes where, by the way, Aang gets captured a lot in the first season.
It does happen.
And I was a little like, okay, can we stop getting captured at some point? Because that's a little lazy in the story. But that is where he gets captured and the blue spirit shows up.
Oh, yes.
To rescue him.
This awesome anime dude.
Yes.
With 2 swords.
2 giant scimitar
and like
swords.
a demon mask. And
So Aang's trying to save Katara and Sokka.
Yeah,
who
this is a great episode.
are like,
sick. And they have
they're
to suck
sick.
on these frogs or whatever.
Yeah, they're like deliriously sick, like comically delirious, and so he finds out that there's a certain type of frog that they have to be frozen, and if he gets it and brings them the frozen frog, they can suck on it, they'll be healed. And of course, he gets captured after he finally gets those frogs, and like all he's trying to do is like
get back and try to save his friend.
Yeah.
And then so the blue spirit comes in and saves them, and there's this big cool fight, and they get away. And it's revealed that the blue spirit is Zuko.
Because he
After
gets knocked out. He gets knocked out from a long shot arrow, right?
They also introduced. I'm sad they didn't use them later, but they also introduced these like precision arrow.
The sniper dudes.
Yeah, those were
guys
cool.
were
They should have brought them back, but
Yeah,
they
but
didn't.
but again, you kind of saw it coming to a certain degree. But 13 is where you really saw what they were trying to set up, which is like, you know what, Zuko isn't really the bad guy.
Right.
Like
No,
he is kind of the bad guy, but
still
he's
very
kind of not.
self-interest. Like the whole reason he went and rescued
Yeah.
the Avatar is because he had to be the one to bring the Avatar back alive in order for him to get his honor back.
Yeah.
Like if anyone else captured him and brought him back, he would never be able to come back into his kingdom and
his
be
family.
restored as the prince. Within the family. And so you can see where his selfish motivations are going to supersede even the Fire Nation itself capturing the Avatar.
It shows he's strong-willed enough to resist like the orders of the Fire Nation to do his own self-interest.
Yeah.
Which
Can we just take a break to say that this whole time Katie has been drawing amazing little sketches over here.
Yes.
I'm completely enjoying this.
Yes.
I'm absolutely enjoying it.
We should snap up a picture
We
of that.
should snap a picture.
Put that on
It's
Patreon.
They're okay.
Yeah. So 14 was kind of a filler episode, but again, even their filler episodes were really fun. Like,
Yes.
they're very creative. They do show character. They do give us a little push forward in the story. Yeah. And so that's why it's fun later when they bring people back, because you thought, oh, well, I thought that was just a filler episode, but now you're bringing this back. Mm-hmm. Well, that was the one where there was a fortune teller in the little town, and there's all this funny stuff of Katara keeps going back, and it was a fun episode.
And it showed the difference between Sokka and Katara again. Sokka's like
he's
skepticism.
Yeah.
But that also comes with he's a tactician too.
He spends basically the whole episode trying to disprove this fortune teller that all the town basically listens to her whatever she says.
And in some weird way, everything she says ends up coming true.
Still ends up being right. Yeah.
Even if they work to make it not true, it ends up being true, you know.
No, but she predicted the town wouldn't be destroyed by the lava.
Yeah.
And then they changed the cloud to, she's like, oh, I guess we're going to be destroyed. Let's move everybody out. And then it ended up not being destroyed because Aang protected it.
Because Aang, intervened. And then she's like, see, I was right.
No, someone else said that.
Yeah.
One of the little side characters.
Yeah. And then
15, we get introduced to more of the water tribe.
Yeah, because they run across a friend of their father. You know, again, we see just very normal conflict, but well done, where Aang intercepts a message from their father that he's still alive and where he is, and you know, so there's that sort of conflict, and there's Sokka reconnecting with the water tribe culture and all that stuff. So it was a good episode.
This is the episode where Zuko hires the bounty hunter June to track down the Avatar with the Shershu, the mammalian creature that can smell out people. Yeah. They go up against Zuko and June, and they end up defeating them, and Aang recovers Katara's necklace that Zuko had taken during a previous fight.
Yeah.
So that was important because that was like her only tie-in to
the water.
Her mom. Her water tribe.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, also in 14, before we move on, we also learned that Aang kind of sees Katara in a romantic light, which gives him another stronger motivation to defeat the Fire Lord.
Yeah.
I do not support that, by the way.
Of what?
Aang and Katara as a couple. It definitely should have been Katara and Zuko, and that's what it was.
They had a couple episodes in there too. Where
they were hinting at that, weren't they? I was a little surprised that that's way out later in season 3, but I was a little surprised because they kind of were pushing it that way a little bit.
Yeah.
And the creator said, no, we have to let our main protagonist have a girlfriend.
Well, Zuko already had a girlfriend, so I guess.
Yeah.
May.
Yeah. It was one of those like weird, kind of like the Harry Potter. Like later on, J.K. Rowling said, I probably should have got Harry and Hermione together instead, or whatever. Like as a writer, you're like, I don't know what I should have done, but maybe, you know.
Right.
But anyway, so we get that.
16, they meet Zhang Zhang, and we really start exploring
the fire thing.
The fire.
It's 16 where he burns Katara, right? Is that right?
Yeah,
he
burns he convinces Zhang Zhang, even though it technically isn't time yet, he's supposed to learn water, then earth, then fire. Mm-hmm. Because basically, there was this whole reason, like, air is free-flowing and stuff like that. Water is like, I don't know, calming, healing. Earth is grounding, but fire is destructive. If you don't have all the other materials, then the destructive part will get you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so he meets this guy, Zhang Zhang, which is a deserter from the Fire Nation, and basically convinces him, even against Zhang Zhang's better judgment, convinces him to start teaching him firebending. And of course, as a result, Aang's trying to get so far ahead so fast, and
he accidentally burns Katara.
Yeah, like it's frustrating him that he can't get it as fast as he wants to, and then he's having a little like argument with Katara and ends up burning her. And of course, then he's like, "I'm never firebending again. I hurt somebody. I hurt my friend.
And then because
He's humbled.
Yeah. Yes.
And then because it's partly because firebending it's influenced by emotion.
Yeah. Right. Which we learn
And
even more so
airbending.
from like Zuko and stuff like that further on.
Yeah, we learned more about that. That was important because it really comes into play when he has to end up learning fire bending.
Well, and then he uses it to his advantage. Like he discovers the whole like, if left unchecked, if your emotions get out of control, your firebending will get out of control and be your own undoing. And later in that episode, they get overcome by a bunch of Fire Nation fleet, like 3 ships or something like that.
Because Zhao was...
General Zhao.
No, he's not Zhao. He's Admiral Zhao.
Admiral Zhao.
He got promoted in the episode where the Blue Spirit came around.
Yes, and so he catches up to them, and Aang uses Admiral Zhao's basically like brutish, all about just attack, and he uses that against him to basically burn down all of his own ships.
Oh, did we talk about how Zuko beat Zhao at the Agni Kai?
Yeah,
no, I just talked about the Agni Kai. But
No, we didn't mention that though.
Yeah, I
Mention
think
it.
you did, but he so. But again, that was good for conflict. That was good for was back a few episodes before.
Mm-hmm.
But 17 is another kind of. It seems like a filler episode. Where they meet some people at the Northern Air Temple. So the whole first season again is them journeying to the Northern Water Tribe to learn from a master how to do water bending.
Yes.
Because that's the first season is water, right? The name of the first season is water because he's an airbender, so he knows airbending really well. He knows airbending really well, but now he needs to learn water. So that's this whole first season.
Yes.
Is him learning water, and there's a certain order they're supposed to go in. So they're on their way, but they get to the Northern Air Temple, and they see these guys. It's kind of a filler episode, but it's kind of cool because they have this. They bring in a disabled character,
right?
Or he's not disabled, but someone with a disability. They bring in a character who has a disability.
Yeah,
but he's still really cool,
yeah.
and he can do all this cool heroic stuff.
But at the same time, Aang is dealing with these emotions of not. He's offended because these people aren't actually like air temple nomads. They're people that have moved in to this northern and then kind of adapted the air temple to their technology. So it's a mix of like technology and what he used to know as the air temple. And so he's like, I don't know how to deal with this. I don't like this. It's a desecration. And then he of course learns that, they're still good people and, well, sort of good people, because we also find out that the guy there, the inventor, is actually working with the Fire Nation as a contractor, basically like developing war machines for the Fire Nation, which ends up being...
The Fire Nation said they'd attack the village.
Right.
He didn't want to... He had the motivation of his son.
Right, to protect him.
And so he wanted to protect his little corner of the world. And he wanted to...
Keep them safe. By appeasing the Fire Nation.
We also get to see...
By making war balloons.
Sokka's like tactician side.
Yeah.
He helps the inventor
devise a plan.
Perfect the war balloon and devise a plan to hold off the Fire Nation.
Yeah, because he hadn't figured out exactly how to do the war balloon. And Sokka shows him that. But it's important because at the end of that episode, one of the war balloons still... So they have this big old battle scene where they're dropping like stink bombs and sticky bombs and overcoming the Fire Nation, and they have this great victory, but one of the war balloons that the Fire Nation was supposed to get, they end up recovering it, and that comes back as a very important piece later in season 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so again, it's just another example of what should have been just a filler episode. Like when I was a kid, that would have just been a filler episode.
Yep.
And You just have it and it's fun.
Yeah.
But it's really still connected with the story and characters, and they're still building. Again, it's just good writing.
And as I was watching season 3, I kept thinking to myself, like, did they have it in mind already that these, what were filler episodes, were going to be brought back? Or did they go back and just really reacquaint themselves with what they had written and go, these are key points that we can use?
Yeah. My guess is
the second one. Yeah.
My guess is B.
I think so also, which I think is even...
Because I think the writers changed in season 3.
Yeah.
Because the writing changed in season 3.
Right.
Well, we can get there.
Some in season 2. You could see some of the episodes were a bit... The filler episodes especially were a bit not what you were used to.
Yeah.
Like the humor was different. Some of the stuff was different.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
So we finally get to the end of season 1, which is they finally get to the Northern Water Tribe, and the big master is more of a chauvinist who decides like, oh, the female waterbenders only do healing. Mm-hmm. They don't do the war fight stuff, and she wants to learn how to fight. So she kind of has to force her way into
Katara has to force
her way into learning
being trained
and alongside the boys. And so there was that sort of thing. And
it's also revealed either in 18 or 19, like the power of the waterbenders comes from the moon, and that the firebenders are from the sun.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of an important piece, because as they're at the North Pole, or the Northern Water Tribe Temple, of course, the Fire Nation shows up with a bunch of ships and all that, and so they start getting ready to defend and fight against.
Right as it's a full moon, and that becomes a thing.
Well, also earlier, I think 16 maybe or 17. Basically, Zuko gets kicked out of his ship by Zhao, and he's like, "I'm going to use your crew." And by that time, Zuko had a better relationship with his crew, because Uncle Iroh basically told the story to his crew, and they had a better relationship. And so the crew wanted to wish him well, blah, blah, blah. I was going to stay with him. And so then Zhao uses the pirates to try to assassinate Zuko. Mm-hmm. And then I think Iroh knew all along, but Iroh kind of thinks he's dead. And then
Iroh thinks who's dead?
Zuko. Okay. And then Zuko sneaks onto Zhao's ship and stows away, and Iroh kind of helps him with that.
Right.
And then, so that's how he gets to the Water Nation. Not the Water Nation, the Water Tribe. Excuse me. Sorry. And Sokka falls in love with a princess, right, Princess Yue.
Well, to go back to what you're saying, you're explaining the fact that the forces from the Fire Nation that show up are really under Admiral Zhao's control, but Zuko shows up there as well because he's stowed away, so he doesn't really know he's there, and so Zuko is kind of racing against Zhao to get to Aang.
To get to the Avatar again.
Right.
He's trying to get to the Avatar. It's again the same motivation. He's trying to get his honor back.
Yeah.
So you got this other side, not really a side story, but with the arcs of all these characters have their arc.
Yeah.
And for Sokka, he's got this girl now.
Yep.
And has white hair because she had to be helped with the moon spirit to live when she was a baby.
Right. When she was born, her life force was really weak.
And we get back into the spirit world because in order to win, Aang thinks I got to connect with, maybe if I get with the moon spirit or the water spirit, or if I get with the spirit world, they'll help us in this battle. So while he's in the spirit world, Zuko captures him, and there's this whole thing, and there's a yin yang, two fish who are like the yin yang in the pool,
which is awesome.
And the general or admiral ends up killing them, killing the moon spirit to take their power away.
Iroh also tries to stop him, and we already knew Iroh was more of a good character. He wasn't a bad person.
He was there truly to watch over Zuko. And help Zuko. Yeah. Like
but
that's been his motivation.
He defends the moon spirit.
Right, because he realizes it's going to throw the balance of everything out of whack.
He's like, you don't mess with the spirits, dude. Like he's trying to tell the admiral, like, you don't mess with the spirits.
Also, there was a story, they mentioned it a few times, but they didn't really go into it, which I wish they had, about Iroh apparently had an adventure in the spirit world. So he knows a bit more about spirits and stuff like that.
Yeah. So, but it's important that you mention Admiral Zhao kills the moon spirit, and so what ends up happening is Sokka's love interest with this princess, she ends up having to give back that portion of the life force that the moon spirit gave to her to sustain her life. She now sacrifices it to sustain the moon spirit life, and she then becomes herself the moon spirit, the new moon spirit, essentially, and ascends, and Sokka is left heartbroken and alone. And I think it really is like it's really well done to the fact where this Yue is
we've only seen her for like 3 episodes.
Like she's like and for maybe 2.5 episodes, 3 episodes, and yet she's very memorable throughout the rest of the seasons and called back to it at a couple times.
And it's again, it's good writing because they didn't just introduce her in one episode and kill her off.
Yeah.
Like they introduced her, you got us to like her, you had this conflict with the arranged marriage and this whole thing, and so there's all this stuff and
then the self-sacrifice.
And Sokka kind of is coming into his own more, and you're rooting for him, and so they did a really good job. And then not killing her off necessarily, but transitioning her into now she's the moon spirit. So it was really well done, and again for a kids show there's costs. Like there's a big battle and there's a war, and there's cost to these things.
And they do a good job in just the overall story arcs where there's a good build up. That it's clear where they're going. And then you get to like the last 2 or 3 episodes that end up being continuations of those. So it's like it'll be like a part 1, part 2, part 3, where you want to like you almost have to binge those episodes.
Yeah, you do. Another good part of the writing was so Zuko does get Aang.
Yes.
Because while Aang's in the spirit world, his body is just like asleep or whatever. And so he takes Aang and he's in like the snow and like, and they could, and then the friends come in, Sokka and Katara and everybody, they could have left Zuko.
Yes.
Because Zuko, they just could have left him in the cold to die. And as they're leaving, again, it's going back to those ethics. What are our ethics? Like, the world might have felt we were completely justified in letting this dude die. But we're not going to do that. We're not going to just let him die. And
Aang remembers also how Zuko had saved him at some point as the Blue Spirit.
And so that was just, again, just great showing of character. Show me character. You show characters by what they say and what they do and the choices that they make. And so that's what keeps us in. That's what keeps us hooked into a story. Is what are the characters going to choose to do? And what are their reactions and interactions going to be? And it's just another great example of not even a foreshadowing, but keeping those sort of ideas and choices consistent through the 3rd season. Because when you get to the end of the 3rd season, he has to make a similar, like that's his whole, in the 3rd season, that's his whole wrestling with himself, his whole struggle. What am I going to do? I don't believe in killing kind of thing. But I'm supposed to be this warrior, all this kind of stuff. And so it's all a great part of his character, and showing that and his evolution to become the avatar he needs to be at the end to win. Obviously, it's a couple seasons away now, but anyway, it's just a good moment to me of their choice.
Right.
Two things. One, Zhao died in the Siege of the North, which was obviously a good choice because there wasn't really much character there. He was just there as a motivation for Zuko and basically another bad guy. So they killed him off. Glad they did that. But then also when Zuko takes Aang and they find a cave, and Zuko kind of talks about how we get introduced to his sister. His sister Azula has always been very, very lucky, always good at manipulating, which her father likes, and she's a firebending prodigy. Like, those 3 points basically introduce us to Azula's character. Yeah. Even though we don't really see her until season 2.
Yeah, it's at the very end. Well, also in that last episode, we see Aang fully in his avatar state. Oh, yeah. Which is how he eventually turns the tide.
He's this big water monster.
Well, he kind of joins with the
moon spirit.
The spirit of the ocean.
Yeah.
And he trashes...
that's right, it was the moon and the ocean.
He Godzilla trashes the boats. Also, I think Yue's... not death, but like transcendence, whatever you want to call it, ascension, humbled Sokka because he was supposed to protect her. That was his job.
Right.
And then he failed at that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good setup. They do a good job of setting up. They wrap up season 1 and then they set up what's going to happen in season 2 because they really show you Fire Lord Ozai and how he's assigning Princess Azula to now hunt down Iroh and Zuko. Yeah. And so now you know, like, okay, he's like even more.
Yeah, that's why you had to get rid of that admiral because it made it way more personal in the second season, which we'll get to at some point. But it made it more personal of who Zuko's going to be fighting against and the bad guy for our protagonist.
Yeah.
So it was very, again, a good setup, good transition. Not really a cliffhanger, but definitely a setup for another season.
Yeah.
Again, it's just strong writing. I mean, I can't think of any... Like, we just went through 20 episodes, and I can't think of one that I went,
right.
It's not good writing. Like, I mean, they're just all strong.
Yeah.
Characters, strong world building.
Strong motivations. It's consistent. And they reveal little things along the way. Yeah.
They don't do it all at once. We really enjoyed it as a family.
Yeah.
But
it was a very formative series, and ending on that emotional loss for Sokka and Zuko, like that elevation to he's coming around as a character, seeing that change of person was really cool. And so like the last couple episodes were just a culmination of really good storytelling, seeing that your characters can lose things that value so deeply to them, but it's not the end of the story, and there's recovery, there's the chance of redemption for everybody. At the beginning you had this terrible character in Zuko he's just awful, but you see him, he's changing his circumstances and he's changing how he views things, and he's not allowing himself to remain a victim.
Right.
And you see Katara starting to be humbled as well. She was a very selfish and proud character, and she's learning that she can't do everything by herself. And just seeing the character changes just in one season, 20 episodes, which they don't make 20 episodes season shows anymore, do they?
That's rare. It's rare.
And the storytelling was really good, and
So when it came out originally, like it was a regular season. I'll sound British. It's a proper season.
It's a proper season.
Where like so you probably had a summer where like you didn't have it, right? You were just watching it reruns, right? So what was it like to kind of wait for the second season? Like, were you just like, oh, like I can't wait, like just hyped up for it?
That was so long ago I can't remember, but probably. It was a joy and a delight to have it back again.
Oh yeah. Well, that was our spoiler-filled review of the first season of Avatar.
Yes, The Last Airbender.
The Last Airbender, not the Dances with Wolves Avatar.
In space.
In space.
If you haven't yet watched the first season, watch the second season. We'll have
You pretty much watched it now with us.
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of stuff we didn't touch on.
That's right.
So
We should start doing companion episodes where we just watch the episode and we talk about it as we're watching it.
Dude, we've talked about doing
we
this.
have.
Yes. Yeah.
So bringing it back around, watch The Last Airbender. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's 2 thumbs up for me.
Yeah.
All the way through. It's one, and like I said, it's one of those where you're gonna enjoy it while you're watching it, and then if you take a break from it and you sort of kind of forget an episode here or there, when you go back to watch it, you're like, man, I forgot how good this is.
It's a rewatchable show.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So again, thanks for listening, faithful listeners, and as always, raise a glass to inspiration and stay inspired, guys.
Is that
Yes.
you've got this character Jet.
Yes.
Sorry, that's really loud.
Is that really loud?
Yeah, let's take a moment while that passes overhead, I guess. Sidebar, but I've been going back and watching Community. And if you've never seen Community, that could be another show that we could.
But you know what?
It smells like burnt hair.
What
This is very
the
interesting.
seltzer?
Seltzer.
Oh yeah, and for those of you that are interested in what we've been drinking tonight, we've had a Blue Moon Iced Coffee Blonde, which I very much recommend.
Extra after credits scene.
We've had Stillfire Quarantine Survival Beer. Helped me survive this podcast. And Stillfire Hard Seltzer Peach, which smells like burnt hair, apparently.